The shuttle spun out of control as Jake Morrison fought with the steering controls. Red warning lights flashed all around him in the small cockpit. The engines made terrible grinding sounds before they went completely silent. "Mayday, mayday. This is Lieutenant Morrison," Jake spoke into his radio. "My shuttle is going down on the planet's surface." "Repeat, I am crashing." Only static came back through his headset. The thick jungle canopy of Kepler 442b rushed up to meet him. Jake pulled hard on the controls one last time before everything went black. When Jake woke up, his head pounded with pain. Bright sunlight streamed through the broken windscreen of his crashed shuttle. He could smell smoke and burning metal. His left shoulder hurt badly, but he could still move his arm. Blood trickled down his forehead from a cut above his eyebrow. Jake slowly climbed out of the wrecked shuttle and looked around. Tall purple trees stretched up toward a pale green sky. Strange bird-like creatures with 4 wings flew between the branches high above. The air felt warm and humid, like a summer day back on Earth, but this definitely was not Earth. His radio was completely dead. The shuttle's emergency beacon light blinked weakly before it too went dark. Jake checked his gear. He still had his sidearm, a small medical kit, some food bars, and a water bottle. Not much for surviving on an alien world. The jungle around him was quiet except for distant animal calls that sounded unlike anything from Earth. Jake decided to look for higher ground, where he might get a better signal for his radio or spot. His rescue team? He had walked for about an hour when he heard something moving in the thick bush nearby. Jake stopped and listened carefully. The sound came again, like footsteps, but trying to be quiet. His hand moved slowly to his weapon. A figure stepped out from behind a large tree trunk about 20 feet away. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was clearly not human, but it looked almost human enough to be startling. She was about 5.5 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the dappled sunlight. Her hair was white and fell to her shoulders in soft waves. Large purple eyes looked at him with curiosity and fear. She wore simple clothes made from what looked like woven plant fibers. The alien girl and Jake stared at each other for several long seconds. Neither moved. Jake kept his hand near his weapon but did not draw it. She seemed young, maybe equivalent to a human teenager, and did not appear threatening. Then her eyes moved down to look at his uniform. She saw the American flag patch sewn onto his right sleeve. Her purple eyes went wide with shock and something that looked like wonder. Without warning, the alien girl dropped to her knees. She bowed her head down until it almost touched the ground. Her whole body was shaking. "Hey, wait," Jake said, taking a step forward. "You don't need to do that." The girl looked up at him with tears streaming down her blue cheeks. When she spoke, her voice was soft and musical, but the words were in English. "The Star Banner," she whispered. "The Promise Keepers have come." Jake was so surprised to hear English that he almost forgot to breathe. "You can understand me?" She nodded quickly. "I learned your words from the Sky Voices. We listened for many, many years." Her English was broken but clear enough to understand. "Sky Voices?" Jake asked. "Radio," she said, pointing upward. "We hear Earth music, Earth talking, Earth stories. We learn about the free people." Jake slowly knelt down so he would be at her. "What's your name?" "I am Zara," she said. "I am Villani." She pointed to herself and then gestured around at the jungle. "This is Villani World." "I'm Jake," he said. "Jake Morrison, I'm from Earth." Zara's eyes filled with tears again. "Earth," she repeated like it was a sacred word. "The blue world of the free people." Jake was confused but tried to stay calm. "Why did you bow when you saw my flag?" Zara wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "My people suffer under the Dark Ones, the hegemony." She said the last word with clear hatred. "They take our freedom, make us slaves? But the old ones, they say warriors will come from the blue world, warriors who fight for freedom. The hegemony?" Jake asked. Zara nodded grimly. "Bad aliens, very bad. They rule many worlds, make all people into slaves. They come to our world 20 years ago. Kill many Villani, rest of us hide." Jake's mind raced. An alien empire that conquered other worlds. Earth radio signals reaching across space. And somehow his people had become symbols of hope to an oppressed alien race. Zara, are there more of your people nearby? Yes, she said. Hidden village, underground, very secret. She looked around nervously. Hegemony soldiers patrol this area. We must go quickly. She stood up and started walking deeper into the jungle. Jake followed, still trying to process everything he had learned. As they walked, Zara kept glancing back at the flag on his uniform like it gave her strength. Zara, Jake said after they had walked for several minutes, how did your people learn so much about Earth? My grandfather, he built big listening machine hidden in deep caves. For 60 years we hear Earth voices, music, news, movies, everything. She smiled slightly. I love the music. Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, Taylor Swift. Jake almost laughed despite their dangerous situation. You know Earth music? Oh yes, and movies too. We see Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel heroes. But most important, we learn about America, about freedom fighting, about people who say no to kings and dictators. They came to what looked like a solid wall of rock covered in vines. Zara pushed aside some of the plants to reveal a hidden entrance. This way. My people wait below. As they descended into a tunnel carved from rock, Jake saw that the walls were covered with crude drawings and paintings. Most showed humans fighting various enemies. He recognized scenes that looked like the American Revolution, World War II, and other conflicts from Earth's history. But what shocked him most were the American flags painted everywhere, along with quotes in broken English. Give me liberty or give me death, read one painting. We shall never surrender, said another. All men created equal, was written above. A drawing of humans and aliens standing together, the tunnel opened into a large underground chamber filled with Villani people. There were maybe 200 of them, from elderly adults down to small children. All of them had the same pale blue skin and purple eyes as Zara. When they saw Jake enter with Zara, a murmur went through the crowd. An old Villani male approached them. His white hair was long and braided, and his purple eyes were sharp with intelligence. He looked at Jake's uniform and flag patch for a long moment before speaking. I am Elder Kess, he said in much better English than Zara. For 63 years I have studied your people and your ways. Welcome to our world, warrior of Earth. Jake looked around at all the faces watching him with hope and expectation. These people had been listening to Earth's radio broadcasts for decades. They had learned about human history, human values, and human struggles for freedom. And somehow, his flag had become their symbol of hope against oppression. Elder Kess, Jake said carefully, I'm just one man. I got separated from my ship when my shuttle crashed. I'm not sure how much help I can be. The old alien smiled sadly. Young warrior, you do not yet understand. The hegemony has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. No one has ever successfully resisted them. But you humans, you are different. You fight when others surrender. You value freedom above safety. You protect the weak. He gestured to the paintings on the walls. We have studied your wars, your revolutions, your struggles for justice. We have learned that sometimes one person with courage can change everything. Elder Kess placed a blue hand on Jake's shoulder. The galaxy has waited long enough. It is time for the hegemony to learn what humans call freedom. Elder Kess led Jake deeper into the underground settlement. The tunnels branched off in many directions, all carved carefully from the rock. Small lights powered by some kind of alien technology lit their way. Jake could hear the sound of water dripping somewhere in the darkness. How long have your people been living down here? Jake asked as they walked. 20 years, Elder Kess replied, since the hegemony came to our world. Before that, we lived in beautiful cities on the surface. We had art, music, learning centers. Now we hide like animals. They entered a large room filled with strange machines and screens. Several Villani worked at control panels, their blue fingers moving quickly over alien keyboards. On the biggest screen, Jake could see what looked like a map of the galaxy with thousands of red dots scattered across it. Each red dot is a world. Controlled by the hegemony, Elder Kess explained. Over 40,000 planets, Billions of slaves. Jake stared at the map in shock. That's impossible. How can one empire control so much space? They have had 3,000 years to grow, said a female Villani voice behind them. Jake turned to see a middle-aged woman with scars on her arms and face. I am Dr. Nina. I was a healer before the hegemony came. Now I attend to the wounds of our fighters. Elder Kess touched one of the red dots near the center of the map. This is Kronos Prime, the hegemony capital world. From there, Admiral Thane commands fleets that patrol every system. Any world that resists is destroyed completely. What about other species? Jake asked. Surely some of them have fought back? Dr. Nina laughed bitterly. Many tried. The Altarians had the strongest military in the galaxy. The hegemony crushed them in 6 months. The Zentari were master engineers who built incredible defensive systems. They lasted 1 year. The Korath were born warriors who lived only for battle. 3 months. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What makes the hegemony so powerful? They think like a machine, Elder Kess said. Everything is planned, organized, predictable. They study a world for years before attacking. They know exactly how many ships they need, exactly which targets to hit first, exactly how long it will take to win. Zara, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. But humans are different. We learn this from Sky Voices. Humans do crazy things. Unexpected things. Elder Kess nodded. This is why we have hope. Your people do not think like machines. In your World War II, a small island nation stood alone against a massive empire. Everyone said they would fall in weeks. Instead, they fought for years and won. Britain, Jake sighed, yes, and your American Revolution. A group of farmers defeated the strongest army in their world. Your Civil War, your people fought their own brothers to free slaves they had never met. This is not logical thinking, this is something else. Jake walked closer to the galaxy map. You said you've been listening to our radio signals for 60 years. How did you find us? We did not find you, Elder Kess said quietly. You were hidden from us, and from the hegemony. Hidden? By who? Dr. Nina activated another screen. It showed a star chart with a route marked in green dots. 47. Different species have sent ships to hide your location from the hegemony. They take great risks to do this. Jake was confused. Why would alien species risk their lives to protect a world they've never contacted? Because they listen to your broadcasts too, Zara said with excitement. Jazz music, rock and roll, country songs. They hear the words about freedom and love. And hope? Some species, they remember what it was like before the hegemony came? Elder Kess called up another display. The Marians were a peaceful trading people. They had no weapons, no army. But they have the fastest ships in the galaxy. For 20 years, they have been intercepting hegemony scout ships that get too close to your solar system. The Vakari are master code breakers, Dr. Nina added. They delete any mention of Earth from hegemony databases. They make your world invisible to their records. The Threnody are shapeshifters, Zara said. They pretend to be hegemony officers and send false reports that Earth is just empty space with no planets. Jake sat down heavily in a chair. An entire secret alliance. Protecting Earth, and we never knew. Your government probably suspects something, Elder Kess said. Strange ship sightings, unexplained radio interference. But the protecting species are very careful. They know that if Earth learns about the galaxy too soon, your people might send signals that the hegemony could track. Suddenly, alarms began, ringing throughout the underground base. Red lights flashed and Villani began running in different directions. A young male Villani rushed into the room. Elder Kess, he said urgently. Hegemony patrol ships? 3 of them. Landing near the crash. Sight. Jake's heart sank. They found my shuttle. Worse, Elder Kess said grimly. If they examine your technology, they will learn about Earth. The hiding will be over. Dr. Nina was already at a control panel. The patrol ships carry 30 soldiers. Each, they have energy weapons and armor. Our fighters cannot match them in direct battle. How long before they reach the shuttle? Jake asked. 1 hour, maybe less, the young Villani replied. Jake stood up and checked his sidearm. I have to go back. I need to destroy the shuttle before they can study it. That is suicide, Dr. Nina said. You are one human against 90 hegemony. Soldiers, if they learn about Earth, billions of humans will die, Jake said firmly. I won't let that happen, Zara grabbed his arm. Wait, there might be another way, a human way. Elder Kess looked at her with interest. What do you mean? The hegemony always does the same thing. They expect us to hide or run away. But humans, they attack when they should defend. They go forward when they should go back. Jake understood what she was thinking. You want to attack the patrol ships? Not attack, Zara said with a smile. Ambush. Like your Francis Marion in American Revolution. Like your Vietnam fighters, we hit them fast and disappear. Elder Kess was shaking his head. Our weapons are too weak. Our fighters are not trained for real combat. But I am, Jake said. I'm a military officer. I know tactics, strategy, guerrilla warfare. If you can get me some volunteers and whatever weapons you have, I can teach them. Dr. Nina looked skeptical. You have 1 hour to train fighters and plan an attack against professional soldiers? The hegemony will expect you to fight like Villani? Jake said. Carefully, defensively, trying to minimize losses. They won't expect you to fight like humans. Zara was already moving toward the door. I will gather our best fighters, the young ones who are tired of hiding. Wait, Elder Kess called after her. If this fails, the hegemony will hunt down every Villani on this planet. They will kill everyone. Zara stopped and looked back. Elder, they are killing us slowly already. Every year, more of our people give up hope. More children are born who will never see the surface. Maybe it is time to die fighting instead of die hiding. Jake looked around the room at the alien faces. Watching him, they had studied human history for decades. They knew about the Alamo, about Thermopylae, about all the times when small groups of fighters had stood against impossible odds. Elder Kess, Jake said, in my country we have a saying, give me liberty or give me death. Your people painted those words on the tunnel walls. Do you know what they mean? The old Villani nodded slowly. They mean some things are worth dying. FR, that's right. And sometimes, when you're willing to die for freedom, you find out you can live for it instead. 30 minutes later, Jake stood in a weapons storage room with 20 young Villani fighters. They had energy rifles that were old, but functional, and a few grenades that Dr. Nina had built from mining explosives. The fighters looked nervous, but determined. Several wore pieces of cloth tied around their arms with crude drawings of the American flag. Listen to me, Jake told them. The hegemony has better weapons, better armor, better training, but they have never fought humans before. They don't know that humans can be crazy enough to win fights they should lose. He pointed to a map of the area around the crash site. We're going to split into 3 groups. When the hegemony soldiers spread out to search the shuttle, we hit them from 3 sides at once. Then we disappear into the jungle before they can organize a counterattack. A young male Villani raised his hand. What if they call for reinforcements? Jake smiled grimly. Then we'll have to be even crazier. Jake crouched behind a fallen tree trunk with 5 Villani fighters. Through the thick jungle leaves, he could see his crashed shuttle in the small clearing ahead. 3 large black ships had landed nearby. They looked like metal insects with wings folded back. Hegemony soldiers moved around the shuttle in organized patterns. They wore dark armor that covered their entire bodies and carried energy weapons that glowed with blue light. Jake counted 30 soldiers visible, which meant the other 60 were probably searching the surrounding area. Remember, Jake whispered to the Villani beside him, wait for my signal. Hit them hard and fast, then disappear into the jungle. Don't try to be heroes. Zara was with the second group on the other side of the clearing. The third group was positioned behind the hegemony ships. Each group had 7 fighters with old energy rifles and homemade grenades. Jake watched the enemy soldiers through his binoculars. They moved like robots, checking every inch of his shuttle with scanning devices. One soldier, taller than the others with red markings on his armor, seemed to be in command. The commander spoke into a communication device. Even from a distance, Jake could hear the harsh alien language. Then the commander switched to English, probably reading from Jake's shuttle computers. Confirmation received. This vessel is from the planet called Earth. Species designation, human. Alert command that we have found the hidden world. Jake's blood ran cold. They had already found Earth's location in his shuttle's navigation system. The secret was out. The commander continued speaking. Begin full data extraction. Send coordinates to Fleet Command immediately. Jake couldn't wait any longer. If that information reached the Hegemony fleet, Earth would be doomed. He raised his rifle and fired at the commander. The energy blast hit the alien officer in the chest, sending him flying backward. Immediately, the other Hegemony soldiers spun around looking for the source of the attack. Now, Jake shouted, energy. Blasts erupted from 3 different directions as the Villani fighters opened fire. The Hegemony soldiers had superior weapons and armor, but they were caught completely off guard. Several fell in the first few seconds of fighting. Jake threw a grenade toward the landed ships, while his group poured rifle fire into the confused enemy soldiers. The explosion damaged one of the black ships and sent more soldiers diving for. Cover! Group 2, attack the ships, Jake yelled. Don't let them send that signal. Zara's team burst from their hiding places, firing rapidly at the communications equipment on the Hegemony vessels. The alien soldiers tried to organize a defensive line, but the attacks were coming from too many directions at once. This was exactly what Jake had hoped for. The Hegemony was used to fighting enemies who attacked in predictable patterns. They expected orderly battle lines and logical tactics. Instead, they faced chaotic human-style warfare that made no sense to them. A group of enemy soldiers charged toward Jake's position, firing their energy weapons. Jake and his fighters scattered in different directions, each one disappearing into the thick jungle vegetation. The soldiers followed, but the moment they entered the trees, individual Villani fighters appeared behind them like ghosts. Hit and run, Jake called out as he sprinted through the undergrowth. Keep moving. The battle lasted only 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. When the shooting finally stopped, Jake cautiously approached the clearing. 15 Hegemony soldiers lay dead or wounded. The others had retreated to their damaged ships. More importantly, the communication equipment on all 3 ships was destroyed. The signal about Earth's location had not been sent. Jake gathered his fighters in the jungle near the clearing. Amazingly, only 2 Villani had been injured, and neither seriously. The young aliens looked at each other with shock and growing excitement. We won, one of them said in disbelief. We actually won. We beat Hegemony soldiers, another added. No one beats Hegemony soldiers. Zara approached Jake with a huge smile on her blue face. The human way of fighting, it works. Jake was checking his rifle when his radio crackled to life. After days of silence, he suddenly heard a familiar voice. Lieutenant Morrison, this is Captain Hayes aboard the USS Horizon. Do you copy? Jake grabbed the radio eagerly. Captain Hayes, this is Morrison. I copy you loud and clear. Jake, thank God, we've been searching for you for 3 days. What's your status? Jake looked around at the Villani fighters and the wreckage of the Hegemony ships. Captain, I have a lot to report, and we have a very big problem. Over the next hour, Jake explained everything to Captain Hayes, the Hegemony Empire, the enslaved alien species, the secret alliance protecting Earth, and the fact that Earth's location was now compromised. Captain Hayes listened in growing alarm. Jake, this is bigger than anything we imagined. I need to contact Earth Command immediately. Captain, there's something else, Jake said. These people have been fighting a hopeless war for 20 years. But today, for the first time, they won a real battle. Word is going to spread. Elder Cass had arrived with more Villani fighters to help clean up the battlefield. He was examining the captured Hegemony weapons with great interest. Lieutenant Morrison, Elder Cass said, our long-range sensors show Hegemony reinforcements coming, a full battle cruiser with 500 soldiers. Jakes Heart sank. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, Elder Kess replied. But there is something else. We are receiving messages from other worlds. The Corvan Resistance wants to know if the rumors are true. The Altarian Underground is asking for confirmation. Word of this victory is already spreading across the galaxy. Zara was monitoring the communication equipment they had salvaged from the enemy ships. Jake, listen to this. She activated a speaker and alien voices filled the air. Jake couldn't understand the languages, but Elder Kess translated. The Corvan fighters are saying they will attack their local hegemony base tomorrow. The Altarians are planning to sabotage 3 mining facilities. The Zentari want to know what human tactics to use. Jake stared at the radio in amazement. One small battle and resistance movements across the galaxy are coming alive. For 3,000 years, no one has successfully attacked the hegemony, Elder Kess explained. Now, suddenly, 21 young fighters with old weapons have defeated a full patrol unit. Every enslaved species in the galaxy is hearing this news. Captain Hayes' voice came through Jake's radio again. Morrison, I'm looking at our long-range scanners. We're detecting increased activity throughout this entire sector. Ships moving, energy signatures, communication bursts. What the hell is happening out there? The galaxy is waking up, Captain, Jake replied. And the hegemony is about to learn what happens when you give people hope. But even as he spoke, Jake knew the real fight was just beginning. The enemy battle cruiser approaching. Their position would have enough firepower to level the entire jungle. His small victory had lit a spark across the galaxy, but now they had to keep that spark from being snuffed out. Zara was organizing the fighters into smaller groups to evacuate the underground base. Jake, my people are asking if you will teach them more human fighting ways. They want to learn everything. Jake looked at the eager faces around him. These aliens had studied human culture for decades, but they had never understood the most important lesson until now. Sometimes you had to be willing to fight for what you believed in, even when the odds were impossible. Elder Kess, Jake said, how many Villani are willing to fight? The old alien smiled. After today, all of them. Young and old, male and female, you have given us something we had lost. You have given us hope. Jake nodded grimly. Then we're going to need a bigger army, and a lot more weapons. As the Villani began moving their equipment deeper into the jungle, Jake stared up at the alien sky. Somewhere out there, the USS Horizon was trying to contact Earth with news that would change everything. And somewhere else, a hegemony battlecruiser was racing toward them with enough firepower to end the rebellion before it could truly begin. But across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, enslaved peoples were hearing the same message. The humans had come, the Promise Keepers had arrived, and for the first time in 3,000 years, the hegemony could be beaten, the spark had been lit, now it was time to fan it into a flame. Captain Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon, staring at the communication screen in disbelief. The message from Earth Command had just arrived, and it was not what she expected. Captain, said her communications officer, Lieutenant Ryan Parker. Earth Command confirms they are sending reinforcements, but it's not just military ships. Hayes read the message again. Civilian cargo vessels retrofitted with weapons? Passenger liners converted to troop transports? They're sending everything that can fly. Ma'am, the President has declared a state of galactic emergency, Parker continued. They're calling it Operation Freedom Storm. On the main screen, Hayes could see Jake's position on the jungle planet below. Long-range sensors showed the approaching hegemony battlecruiser, a massive ship 3 times the size of the Horizon. But they also showed something else, dozens of smaller ships converging on the system from all directions. Captain, called out the sensor officer, I'm reading multiple alien vessels entering the system. Different designs, different energy signatures. None of them match hegemony profiles. Hayes activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to witness something that has never happened before in Galactic history. Multiple alien species are coming to fight alongside us against the hegemony. Down on the planet's surface, Jake was leading 300 Villani fighters through the jungle. Word of their victory had spread so quickly that volunteers were arriving from hidden settlements across the continent. But they were still badly outnumbered and outgunned. "Elder Kess," Jake said as they moved through the trees, "how many people are in that hegemony battle cruiser?" 500 soldiers, plus crew, Elder Kess replied. "And they have orbital bombardment weapons. They can destroy this entire forest from space." Zara was running beside them, carrying one of the captured hegemony energy rifles. "Jake, our scouts report something strange. The battle cruiser has stopped moving. It's just sitting in space above us." Jake activated his radio to contact Captain Hayes. "Horizon, this is Morrison. What's the status of that enemy ship?" His voice crackled back. "Jake, you're not going to believe this. The hegemony cruiser is being surrounded. We count 47 different alien vessels forming a blockade around it." Jake stopped running. 47 ships? "The Marians brought their entire merchant fleet," Hayes explained. "The Vakari sent their stealth fighters. The Threnody have shapeshifter infiltration vessels. Even species we've never heard of are showing up." Elder Kess was listening to his own communication device. "Lieutenant Morrison, I am receiving reports from across the galaxy. The Corvan Resistance has captured their sector capital. The Altarians have destroyed 6 hegemony mining facilities. The Zentari have begun building weapons again." Jake felt a chill of excitement and fear. "It's happening everywhere at once." "Yes," Elder Kess said with wonder in his voice. "Every species that the hegemony has enslaved is fighting back simultaneously. They are calling it the Great Uprising." Zara pointed to the sky where bright flashes of light were visible even in daylight. "The space battle has begun." High above the planet, the USS Horizon joined the alien fleet in surrounding the hegemony battle cruiser. Captain Hayes had never seen anything like it. Ships of dozens of different designs, all working together for the first time in galactic history. "Captain," Lieutenant Parker reported, "the alien fleet commanders are requesting permission to coordinate their attack with us." Hayes smiled grimly. "Tell them we would be honored to fight alongside them." The battle in space was unlike anything the hegemony had ever faced. They were used to fighting one species at a time, using predictable tactics. Instead, they found themselves facing Marian speed, Vakari stealth technology, Threnody shape-shifting abilities, and human unpredictability all at the same time. The hegemony cruiser's commander, Admiral Vex, tried to break through the blockade to escape and call for reinforcements. But every time he moved toward one group of ships, another group would attack from behind. When he tried to use his superior firepower, the smaller ships would scatter and regroup faster than he could target them. "This is impossible," Admiral Vex growled to his officers. "These species have never worked together before. How are they coordinating their attacks?" His communications officer looked up from his console with fear in his eyes. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the human ship. They're broadcasting something called military coordination protocols. All the alien ships are following human tactical instructions." Down on the planet, Jake was teaching his growing army of Villani fighters more advanced tactics. They had captured enough hegemony weapons to arm over 500 rebels, and more volunteers were arriving every hour. "The key to guerrilla warfare," Jake explained to a group of squad leaders, "is to make the enemy fight your kind of battle, not theirs. They expect us to defend fixed positions. Instead, we attack their supply lines and disappear." A young Villani fighter raised her hand. "Jake, what if they decide to destroy the planet from orbit?" "They won't," Jake said confidently. "This planet has valuable resources they want to mine. But more importantly, they can't afford to look weak. If they run away or destroy a planet just to stop a rebellion, every other enslaved world will see it as a sign of weakness." Elder Kess approached with more news from the communication center. "Lieutenant Morrison, the situation is changing rapidly. The hegemony is sending reinforcements from 12 different sectors. But the resistance movements are growing faster than they can respond. How many worlds are in open rebellion now?" Jake asked. Over 300, Elder Kess replied. And the number is growing every hour. Zara was monitoring captured hegemony communications equipment. Jake, listen to this. I'm picking up hegemony military frequencies. She activated the speaker and they heard panicked voices speaking in the harsh hegemony language. Elder Kess translated as they listened. They're calling for Admiral Thane himself to come from the capital, Elder Kess said with excitement. The Supreme Commander of the hegemony military is being forced to leave his headquarters. Jake understood the significance immediately. They're having to pull their best forces away from their core worlds to fight rebellions on the frontier. That's exactly what we want. Captain Hayes' voice came through Jake's radio with urgent news. Morrison, Earth Command has just informed me that our reinforcement fleet has arrived at the edge of the system. 300 human vessels, plus President Carter herself is aboard the command ship. Jake could hardly believe it. The President of the United States is here? Apparently she decided this was too important to handle from Earth, Hayes replied. She wants to speak with you directly. A few minutes later, Jake found himself talking to the President of the United States while hiding in an alien jungle surrounded by blue-skinned rebels. President Helen Carter's voice was clear and determined. Lieutenant Morrison, the entire world is watching what you've accomplished. You've started something that will change the galaxy forever, Madam President, Jake replied. I'm just one soldier doing his duty. Son, you're much more than that. You've become a symbol of human values to species across the galaxy. Every alien resistance movement is using the American flag as their banner. They're calling you the Freedom Bringer. Jake looked around at the Villani fighters near him. Many wore pieces of cloth with crude drawings of the American flag tied around their arms. Others had painted stars and stripes on their weapons. Madam President, what are your orders? Win this war, Lieutenant. Show the galaxy what freedom looks like. As Jake ended the communication, explosions lit up the sky above them. The space battle was intensifying as more ships arrived from both sides. But something had changed in the last few hours. For the first time in 3,000 years, the hegemony was fighting a defensive battle. Zara grabbed Jake's arm excitedly. Look at the communication display. Messages are coming in from everywhere. Jake watched as reports flowed in from across the galaxy. The rebellion was spreading faster than anyone had imagined possible. Worlds that had been enslaved for centuries were suddenly throwing off their chains. Elder Kess was reading the messages with tears in his purple eyes. Lieutenant Morrison, do you understand what you have done? You have given an entire galaxy hope. You have shown us that the hegemony can be defeated. Jake looked up at the battle raging in the sky above them. Human ships were fighting alongside alien vessels that had been enemies for generations. On the ground, he stood with rebels who had learned about freedom by listening to Earth's radio broadcasts. Elder Kess, Jake said quietly, I think we're about to find out if hope is stronger than fear. 6 months after the first battle on the Villani homeworld, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the final assault on Kronos Prime. The massive hegemony capital world hung in space before them. Surrounded by the largest fleet in galactic history, President Carter stood beside him. Along with Captain Hayes, Elder Kess, and Zara, representatives from over 200 alien species filled the command center. The sight would have been impossible to imagine just half a year ago. Admiral Vex's forces are retreating to the planet's surface, reported Captain Hayes, who had been promoted to admiral after leading several successful battles. His fleet is completely surrounded. Jake looked at the tactical display. The hegemony's once mighty armada was now scattered and broken. Their rigid military doctrine had proven no match for the chaotic creativity of human tactics, combined with the unique abilities of dozens of alien species. Zara, what's the status of the planetary resistance? Jake asked. Zara, now wearing the uniform of a Liberation Council commander, checked her communication device. The slave populations on Kronos Prime have taken control of most major cities. They're using the tactics you taught us, Jake: hit and run attacks, sabotage, disrupting supply lines. Elder Kess, who had become the unofficial coordinator for all resistance movements, was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Lieutenant Morrison, I have reports from the outer systems. The last hegemony strongholds are surrendering. The war is nearly over. Jake found it hard to believe. The hegemony empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years was collapsing in a matter of months. It had all started with one crashed shuttle and an alien girl who recognized the meaning of an American flag. Incoming transmission from Admiral Vex, announced the communications officer. He's requesting terms for surrender. President Carter stepped forward. Put him through. The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Vex in his command bunker on Kronos Prime. The alien commander looked older and more tired than Jake remembered from their first encounter. His once proud uniform was dirty and torn. I am Admiral Vex of the Hegemony 4th Fleet, he said in heavily accented English. I wish to discuss the terms of our surrender. President Carter spoke clearly and firmly. Admiral, the terms are simple. Immediate cessation of all military operations. Release of all enslaved populations. And you will stand trial for war crimes against innocent species. Admiral Vex's face showed resignation. And what guarantee do we have that our people will be treated fairly? The same guarantee you gave to the billions of people you enslaved, Jake said, stepping into view of the camera. None, but unlike you, we believe in justice, not revenge. The alien admiral stared at Jake for a long moment. You are the human who started all this. The one they call the Freedom Bringer. I'm just a soldier who crashed on the wrong planet, Jake replied. The people of the galaxy freed themselves. Admiral Vex nodded slowly. Very well. I hereby surrender all hegemony forces under my command to the Liberation Council. As the transmission ended, cheers erupted throughout the command center. Aliens from dozens of species embraced each other, many crying tears of joy. The galaxy was finally free. 2 years later, Jake walked through the halls of the new Galactic Liberation Academy on what had once been Kronos Prime. The former hegemony capital had been transformed into a center of learning and cooperation between species. The walls were lined with artwork from hundreds of different worlds. But prominent among all the alien symbols and designs were American flags, painted by grateful species who had learned about freedom from Earth's radio broadcasts. Jake entered a classroom where Zara was teaching a group of young aliens about human military history. On the wall behind her was a large painting showing the raising of the American flag on Iwo Jima, but with humans and aliens working together. And this is why the human strategy works so well against the hegemony, Zara was explaining to her students. Humans don't fight the way they're supposed to fight. They adapt, they improvise, they do the unexpected. A young Corven student raised his hand. Teacher Zara, why did humans help us when they didn't even know we existed? Zara smiled and pointed to the American flag displayed at the front of the classroom. Because humans believe that freedom is not just for one species or one world. They believe that all thinking beings deserve to be free. Jake quietly left the classroom and continued through the academy. In other rooms, former hegemony soldiers were learning about democracy and individual rights. Many of them had volunteered to help rebuild the worlds their empire had destroyed. He found Elder Kess in the central library, working on a massive project to preserve the histories of all the species the hegemony had tried to erase. The old Villani looked up as Jake approached. Lieutenant Morrison, or should I say Ambassador Morrison now? Jake still felt uncomfortable with his new title. Earth had appointed him as their first ambassador to the Galactic Liberation Council, making him the bridge between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Elder, how is the historical preservation project going? Wonderfully, Elder Kess replied, gesturing to the thousands of data crystals surrounding them. Every species is sharing their stories, their cultures, their knowledge. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy is learning instead of forgetting. They walked together to a viewing window that looked out over the academy courtyard. Hundreds of students from dozens of species were studying together, playing together, learning together. Human children who had come with their diplomat parents, or teaching alien kids how to play baseball and soccer. Jake, Elder Kess said quietly, do you ever regret crashing on our world that day? Jake thought about it for a moment. He had given up his chance to return to Earth and live a normal life. Instead, he had become a symbol and a leader in a galaxy-wide transformation that was still ongoing. No, he said finally, this is where I'm supposed to be. And Zara? Have. You told her how you feel? Jake smiled. We're getting married next month. Captain Hayes is going to perform the ceremony. It'll be the first human-alien wedding in galactic history. Elder Kess chuckled. Another first for the Freedom Bringer. As they watched, a group of students ran past the window, laughing and chasing each other. Among them, Jake could see human children, blue-skinned Villani, tall Corvan kids, and several other species he was still learning to identify. Elder Kess, Jake said, what do you think the galaxy will look like in 50 years? The old alien was quiet for a moment, watching the children play. I think it will look like that, he said, pointing to the mixed group of young beings. A place where differences are celebrated instead of feared, where cooperation replaces conquest, where freedom is protected by those who understand its value. Jake's radio buzzed with an incoming message from Admiral Hayes aboard the USS Horizon. Ambassador Morrison were receiving a distress signal from the Andromeda Galaxy. Another oppressed species asking for help with their freedom movement. Jake looked at Elder Kess, who was smiling knowingly. It seems the human way of thinking is spreading beyond our own galaxy. What are your orders, Admiral? Jake asked into his radio. Prepare a diplomatic mission, Hayes replied. The Liberation Council has voted to share our knowledge of freedom with any species that wants to learn. As Jake left the academy to prepare for another journey, he passed the memorial wall in the main entrance. It honored all those who had died fighting for galactic freedom. At the center was a simple plaque with words in hundreds of different languages, all saying the same thing, give me liberty or give me death. But Jake's favorite part was at the bottom, where someone had added a new line in perfect English. Freedom is not a destination, it is a journey that never ends. That evening, Jake stood with Zara on a balcony overlooking the former hegemony capital. The city lights stretched out before them, no longer symbols of oppression, but beacons of hope for a free galaxy. Do you think we did the right thing? Zara asked, leaning against him. Jake thought about the crashed shuttle that had started it. All the first battle in the jungle, the galaxy-wide rebellion, and all the changes that had followed. Billions of beings now lived free because an alien girl had recognized what an American flag represented. I think we did what we had to do, he said. The rest is up to them. Above them, the stars shone brightly in the alien sky. Each one represented worlds where freedom was now possible, where children could grow up without fear, where the future was full of hope instead of despair. The galaxy had indeed changed. And it would never be the same again.